The way you were describing more, I was reminded of one of these drives I was taking through the desert, and you see, that mirage in the distance. And as soon as you get there, the mirage is shifted a few hundred meters. And more's kind of like that. More as a psychological concept is a mirage that keeps extending itself farther and farther away from you. And it never seems to stop. I used to think when I was much younger, where I was like, well, if you're really that rich, why do you want more? Like, you have enough. Why would you create wars or, cause all this conflict for more or, do anything, even if it's a trivial, immoral thing? Why would you do something like that? And I realized what really ends up happening is, as I've gotten more popular or as I've gotten richer, you start comparing yourselves with people around you. And they're already as popular or as rich as you are. So now you want, and so the place of assessment, the data set that you pitch yourself against changes all the time. And so the idea of what is enough changes all the time. And it becomes this constant treadmill.
Yeah, and then at some point there comes this almost like a moral imperative where you realize that you have achieved what you've achieved, and there's only a few people like you who have done that. So can you even stop now? Or do you have a moral obligation to keep going more, to keep going further? Because you could make a whole difference on your family generation. You can make a whole difference for your community. You can make a difference for your country. And all of a sudden you start to fall into this echo chamber of your own where you feel obligated to continue to achieve more. And for sure, the person who's just trying to survive day to day doesn't understand that.
Yeah, well, you become a symbol. Somebody told me early on in my career, they said, Prakhar, you are now becoming the voice of millions. And I was like, wait, that's too much pressure. But if I'm the only one, then I'm going to find myself burdened by responsibility to be the voice of millions. Whether I'm a good voice or a bad voice is completely immaterial at that point. I'm just now this role, and I have to live this role out no matter what, right?
And nobody forgives you. Nobody cares about the real you, right? Because the real Prakhar has his own challenges. Whatever it is, maybe there's something that upsets your stomach when you eat it. Maybe you have a hard time going to sleep at night. Maybe it's difficult to get to the gym. You've always wanted a pet and you haven't had time for a pet. There's something in your life that isn't going the way you want it to go. But because you're busy being the voice of millions, those millions don't even stop to think about what you still need. They don't even stop to think about the fact that maybe you go to bed late sometimes feeling guilty about the fact that you didn't spend enough time with your fiance. They don't even stop to think about maybe you've been traveling for 2 days, 15 days, 35 days, and you haven't had a home cooked meal. And maybe you haven't had, maybe your body's feeling bad because you've been sleeping in hotel beds. And instead they think, how awesome, you're sleeping in hotels all over the country, all over the world. And you're sitting there and you're like, I just want one good night's sleep in my own bed.
No more flights, please. If I can, just no more fucking flying, dude. Like, people think it's so glamorous when you travel around and walk. I think I sure did when I was not traveling as much. But then you eventually realize all airports look the same, all flights feel the same, and God, am I sick of myself. In airports and in the flights, what do I do? There's so many. So I get what you mean by that. That part's sure.
But the millions don't get it. And that's what I'm saying, right? Everybody that we look up to, we spend so much time looking up to the version of them that we see that we actually lose touch with them as individuals, as actual people. And even though we say to each other like, hey, I want you to see me for me, and it's important that you understand me for me, we don't look at these politicians, these leaders of industry, these heads of media, we don't look at them as people. We look at them as something else, whether it's a hero or a villain or something in between.
In vain of that, and this is something I think you've touched upon in a bunch of conversations. Also, you've spoken with so many people and for so many hours. I'm not sure if any of this has already been touched, but this one I think you have. I wanted to understand, what is the ingredient or ingredients to create psychological power, which we famously call as influence? Like, how does one go about creating influence?
So influence is a phenomenal word that sometimes gets confused,
right,
with the word persuasion. So persuasion and influence are two different things. And I want to start there because it's an important distinction. Persuasion is something that can only be done when you are with a person in real time. So right now, you and I are talking in real time. This is my opportunity to persuade you. I can't influence you in this moment. I can only persuade you in this moment because I'm physically here with you. After this call is over and you go do whatever you're going to do with the rest of your night, and I go on and do whatever I'm going to do with the rest of my day, that is the opportunity where persuasion is gone, but influence is available. And if you have a conversation with your fiance or with your producer or with a business partner, and you're like, I had this great conversation today with this former CIA guy with giant hair. And here's what he said. That's me influencing you, your conversation, and the person you're talking to. Likewise, if I go out with my wife for lunch and I'm like, oh, I had this great conversation with a major podcaster in India named Prakhar, great guy, handsome as hell. Now you're influencing me, because influence can only happen when you're not together. Persuasion is what happens when you're together. Influence is what happens when you're not together. So the number one most powerful thing for influence is being able to gain someone's trust, their trust enough to just get them to remember you. That's what's most important. When you're trying to persuade someone, the most important thing you can have is emotion, because emotion is what makes two people connect here and now. But trust is what makes people connect after they're actually no longer talking to each other. It doesn't have to be trust in the person. You don't have to trust me. I don't have to trust you. But we have to question how much we trust our own previous beliefs, and then bring up the new thought process or the new pattern or the new idea that someone else brought forward. And here's what's crazy, Prakhar. The more you think about me and the more I think about you, even when we're not together, cognitively, our brain considers that the same as if we were actually sitting together. So if you and I spent a week in India, traveling India together, we would become close friends. Well, if I spend a week in the United States watching your content, thinking about what you have to say, reading your thoughts and your messages, I'm going to build a relationship with you on my own, even though you won't be building the same relationship where you are, because you're not thinking about me and reading my books and watching my content, right? So that's how this whole influence thing works. That's why the most influential people in the world have books, they have YouTube channels, they have videos, they're on camera. You can find them and you can spend time with them when they don't spend time with you, because that influence lasts for a long time, even long after they've said the words that they're saying, simply because you're thinking about them. You're building a relationship with them that they're not building with you.
So if I had to build influence, what I have to do is effectively persuade people without being there, right? Like if I can pass on emotion through my videos, my books, my podcast, whatever, and then people in their own time consume it, the eventual outcome is influence. And this is a technological version of it. But if I meet somebody and I persuade them and they find me to be trusting and they think about me later, I'm already generating influence that way. If two people are talking about me somewhere else and they're talking to each other, third person listens to that, there is a scope, there's a chance that they might be influenced.
You're building influence still. Exactly right. Exactly right. Because you're not even present. And here's what's so powerful. When you're not present and somebody else is representing your ideas, that's something in CIA that we call an advocate. When an advocate is representing you, you gain the credibility and the authority and the influence of the advocate. So think about that, right? I'm going to be speaking to the European Union Parliament in Brussels after the new year. I was invited to speak to the entire Parliament by one representative, the representative of Cyprus. Because of the representative of Cyprus, I'm being pulled into this formal government entity. The Cyprus person is my advocate. And he is lending his credibility, his authority as a parliamentarian to the entire parliament. So now I have an opportunity to speak to people that I would otherwise never get to speak to because of a single advocate and the influence I've had on that one advocate. And that's an example of what we all do every day. Whether you're looking for a new job, whether you're looking for a new spouse, whether you're looking for a new opportunity, the advocates that carry your influence forward are super powerful, and you don't even have to be there.
अगर आप हमारी इन विचित्र अचित्र कहानियों का और किस्सों का और बातों का हिस्सा बनना चाहते हैं तो आपको यहाँ पे PGX क्लिप्स चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि यहाँ हम पोस्ट करते हैं हमारी कॉन्वर्सेशन के बेस्ट, मोस्ट इंटरेस्टिंग, मोस्ट वाइल्ड, मोस्ट इंटेलेक्चुअली रेजोनेटिंग मोमेंट्स. So press the bell icon, press the subscribe button, spend some time with us.